Welcome back to this week's episode of Problematic Women. This week we have so many funny, crazy headlines from Trump, Ballrooms, SouthPark, and Trump named who his heir to the MAGA movement will be. So stay tuned for all of that. But first, we have one of the funniest, craziest dating stories that I've heard recently, starring none other than Virginia Allen and our guest here. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Problematic Women. Welcome back to Problematic Women. I'm Elise McHugh.
I'm Virginia Allen.
I'm Morgan McMichael.
And we have a good friend of mine, Chaney Mullins. Do you still want to go by your maiden name? I was going to ask you this before we hit record, but we're going to ask it live.
Chaney Gooley, Chaney Mullins Gooley.
Okay.
Chaney. Everyone calls me
Chaney. Thank you so much for being here. We're really excited, obviously, to get into a little bit of how we know each other.
Yes.
And also to share a little bit about the awesome organization, Heaven's Gain, that you work for. We're going to get to that later on in the show. But as we kind of begin this conversation of dating, of marriage, of engagement, all the things.
So exciting.
And celebrating Morgan's soon-to-be wedding.
Almost.
We're so close.
So excited.
So I recently ran across this stat that Medium put out an article on it. It's been floating around Instagram that 45% of men between the ages of 18 and 25 have never actually approached a woman to ask her out. So with that percentage being that high, I have to start by asking you all, have you ever been approached in the flesh by a man? Not online.
Not online. I actually have a crazy story. I'll keep it brief.
Okay.
But it wasn't an American man who was like born and raised in America. I was on the beach sitting in LA. I had just actually gone to Heir, was, just having a little snack on the beach, and a man approached me and goes, "Hi, I'm also eating lunch. Would you like to join me for lunch?" And I was like, taken aback of like, oh my gosh, did a man just approach me and like asked me to sit with him at lunch? And I immediately, like, my walls came down. Like, of course I was like a little skeptical, but I was like, you know what? He had the balls to ask me out of all these women on the beach. This was like probably 3 years ago now. And I said, you know what? Yes. And I went and sat with him and ate lunch, and it didn't end up aligning. He was definitely not the same values. He was not from America, and like, it just didn't work out. But I told him, I was like, hey, I really appreciate you asking me to lunch. And this statistic to me is so true of like, so many women have never been approached these days. And I genuinely think it's because like the like all men are bad mantra from the leftist feminists.
They like got one-shotted by the Me Too movement, and it's so bad.
Men are too scared to now even approach women. And I think it's really sad because I think, women want masculine men who approach them and that lead them and that court them. And now men are too scared to do so. But I was approached once.
I love that story. Yeah. I have been approached a good number of times, but like, were they ever not drunk? No.
In a creepy way.
Yeah. Some of them were creepy. Some of them were nice, but they did have that liquid confidence in them. So I would say no, just like out of the blue for lunch, just sober, but like out at bars at college, sure.
At a coffee shop.
But I will say there's like a big movement of Gen Zers, Zoomers who are very anti like alcohol, anti staying out late. And I'm like, no, drink the alcohol. This is how you meet your wife.
Social anxiety.
I know, like if you need it for the social anxiety, like just don't be weird about it. Don't be an alcoholic, but it can help. So yeah, that's my story with it. I just got out of college too, so maybe there's time. No one's sober.
Yeah. Were you, before you were married, Chaney, were you ever cold approached?
I don't think so for a one-on-one date. Maybe like, hey, come hang out with my friends or go out type of thing, but not like a real one-on-one. Would you come and talk to me?
It's like fictional from the rom-coms in the 90s. That's what it feels
I would love
like.
to take you on a date or come join me for coffee. Like,
it doesn't happen. I don't think I've ever been like totally cold approached. I've been approached in person by guys that like I maybe met and like chatted with throughout the night at a party or at college, and like we had a class together and like got to know it, but like never, hey, I saw you on these sidewalks standing there.
Why are you going to sidewalk, Virginia?
My husband likes to do it just for fun now. He'll come up and say, oh, you're the prettiest woman in this airport.
Oh, that's really cute.
I love that.
That's adorable. Okay, so Chaney, speaking of, so because so few women now get approached, so many of us have turned to online, and we've said, okay, well, that seems to be the place where dating is happening, is online. You and I have both done Hinge, and a certain man that we both know, quite well, also did Hinge, and we had the opportunity to both meet and get to know a little bit. This was in 2018.
Indeed.
I think
pre-COVID.
So we I guess to get to the punchline, we dated the same guy at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Wait, at the same time?
Yeah,
kind of. Okay,
pretty much.
Yeah, but it makes sense.
Okay,
it does.
We'll
it
tell
makes
you the story.
Sense. So I want to get your perspective on how this played out first.
So I was on Hinge. I love the way that Hinge has that friend of a friend of a friend thing. So you still feel like it's the updated version of being introduced by friends. So I had 2 mutual friends with this guy, and I put on Hinge that my favorite movie was Father of the Bride. I'm like, okay, this will turn off all the bad people. You know, they need to know I'm serious about marriage.
That's a classic.
I love it.
And Patrick reached out and was like, hey, wasn't he wearing Nikes in that movie? And I was like, for those of you who've seen Father of the Bride, it is sidekicks. The Steve Martin character, the father of the bride, produces sidekick tennis shoes. And so I was like bantering with him right off the bat, like it wasn't Nikes, but sure off the boyfriend was wearing Nikes. So it all depends on who you're talking about in the movie.
Yep.
My dad used it as a great communication lesson in his speech for our wedding. Because we ended up getting married. Spoiler alert. So I started talking to him, texting him. You know, he was definitely like, let's go on a date pretty soon. It wasn't one of these dragged out red flag online dating situations where you're like, are we going to meet each other? So we had 2 mutual friends, so we were able to kind of vet each other that way, and showed up at the Nando's Peri Peri, and I'm so nervous, of course, and I see him and I'm like, wow, he is better looking than his pictures, which you always think the opposite, you know? But I was still like, okay, I'm not sure. I want to be cautious. And he did not order drinks that night. I still tease him for it. I was like, I could have used just 1 drink on our first date. But we sat down and started chatting away, and we found out that we both went to very different churches. And I was really into liturgy, still am very into liturgy, and was just apparently gave him a look, sort of a, I don't think we're compatible sort of look of judgment for his church traditions. Which,
was he going to a non-denominational church?
Yes, which I now find, you know, just a little, you know, arrogant of me. But I was just looking for compatibility. I was looking for a guy that would get me and be exactly like me. And spoiler alert, it is not always God's plan to have a man exactly like you. And somebody different can be so complimentary. So apparently because of this look, he got very concerned because he had dated a girl in the past and they'd actually broken up because of denominational differences. And he didn't want to relive that story, which is totally understandable. So he sort of texted me still, but it wasn't as warm as before our first date. And then I get this text that says, I can't pursue you romantically at the moment. So I'm like, what does this mean at the moment? Like you're interested, but you're not interested. Like
put it on hold.
You're opening the door. Well, turns out he had put me on hold because he had met Miss Virginia Allen on his other date that he went on like right around the same time as our first date, which I think is normal. When you're online dating, you're meeting up with multiple people. And so he had gone out with you and decided that maybe you two were a little more denominationally compatible. You had similar backgrounds.
I go to a non-denominational church. That's my background.
And so yeah, take over. What is your perspective?
So the funny thing, to give the end of the story before the beginning and the middle, so I didn't find out all of this until we got dinner last year, about 6 months ago, or 7 months ago, and was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know
the full extent
of what was going on.
But you knew it was Virginia earlier.
Well, Patrick did not know that Virginia and I
knew each other.
Were acquaintances at the time.
So we were both I was a part of a small group Bible study at a church that Chaney attended. And so we had met through that, knew each other. So anyway, I
DC is so small.
DC is so small, and the conservative
circle.
So
conservative Christian bubble. Smaller.
So I was pretty new to DC in 2018. I was like, all right, you know, I met some people. I was like, all right, I'm gonna try Hinge. Patrick and I think went on a handful of dates, like 3 or 4. And I was like, okay, fantastic guy, but like, don't think this is it. He was like, thank you so much, but and we ended things. And so then he proceeds to be just very kind and would invite me to things like at his house, game nights or barbecues. And I said, no. And finally I was like, this is silly. He just wants to be friends. He's a cool guy. I'd love to just be friends. So I'll go to this bonfire at his house. Well, I show up at his house for this bonfire. And he introduced me to Chaney. And I'm like, I already know Chaney. And he's like, this is my girlfriend. And I'm like, why did you invite me to a bonfire?
With your girlfriend.
But it was like this funny situation where it was like, he didn't know that we knew each other, but we did know each other, but I didn't know that you all were dating. It was like, what is going on?
And then he suggested that the 3 of us hang out.
Oh,
and then I literally verbally said no. And so I had to come back
like,
all
we
these
were
years
on the
later
same wavelength.
and apologize, like, Virginia, I was not dissing you. I want to be your friend. I've always liked you.
I think we were on the same wavelength
Wow.
of like, no, Sarah, thank you, but this would be odd. We're not going to do that.
Female friendship between the 2 of you, totally amicable and normal. Too.
Exactly.
Coffee, hang out,
But
sure.
like, the 3 of us are not going to hang out.
We don't have to do this.
He says, from his perspective, that he took you seriously when you said, well, I just want to be friends. Like, I told him that's just
And I
something people
respect that.
say to be nice.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to be like,
Young
I wish you
Virginia
well in
was-
your life's endeavors.
Yeah.
But he was like, oh, okay, I'll be friends with her. And then just like
That's on me.
immediately integrate. And
That's
what
really
he does.
sweet.
He's so hospitable, welcoming, honest, takes people at their word. He's such a wonderful man. So he comes crawling back to me.
Yes, he does.
And what had happened was we were trying to do the just friends thing. He was like, I don't want to totally lose touch with you. So I went out to one of these big, fundraisers, and he was supposed to be my date for the night, my friend date, And then at the last minute, he stands me up. He had a very important thing at the church that he'd forgotten about, and he felt like he couldn't get out of his responsibility.
More important than you?
And that night, we were at the table, and it was me, and it was the salad that was supposed to be Patrick, and it was Ted Cruz. And he missed out on a whole dinner with Ted Cruz that night. And I texted him, and I said, don't worry, this will be a great opportunity for me to meet nice Christian conservative men at the fundraiser. It's probably better I don't have a friend date. And he said that was a dagger to his heart. That was
No
his
way.
wake-up call.
Good for
He was
you.
like, wait a minute, I don't want her to go out with other conservative Christian guys.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So thankfully, he wised up. He, started saying, hey, let me take you to drinks. And all my friends were like, oh, if he pays for your drink, like he's serious again. He's decided at the moment has changed. The moment has changed. So we went out and had a great date, and shortly after decided to start dating and host this bonfire. And there you were.
Showed up. Virginia was at the bonfire.
Oh, so
Wow.
wild. So at what point was it after, because I wanted to ask you this, at what point was it after that bonfire that then he fully told you that, like, hey, I went on dates with this girl? Like, at what point did that
I
get
think
filled in?
I must have known, because
Okay.
that's why I thought it'd be awkward for the 3 of us to hang out. He's a
Okay.
very honest guy. So
Yeah.
he explained the whole thing to me when we started dating. Like,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that, we respected each other's traditions and cultures.
Yeah.
So, of course, now we're Anglican, and we've taken him over.
Swayed him to the other side.
There was another great person in his confirmation class, same husband. And he's like, yeah, my wife's Anglican, so now we're Anglican. And Patrick's like, me too. I'm with you, man.
That's how that
But
goes.
it's been wonderful. And we just totally respect each other's differences and really speak into each other's lives and have expanded each other's horizons.
awesome. How long did y'all date before getting married?
So we dated in August and then got engaged in October. So
Okay.
a little bit
2
over
months.
a year. Which I enjoyed seeing him in all seasons. That's my little tip, like see somebody through the whole year, through all 4 seasons. But it doesn't always work that way. And I think it's so important to know that there's not like a hard and fast rule about these things. We get to kind of judging each other because we do it in a different way or have a different timeline than someone else. But it's really not a moral question. You know, our lives take such different paths. So that's just what worked for us.
Wait, you started dating in August and then got married the next October?
No, we got engaged the next October.
Got engaged the next
and
October.
got married the next July.
Okay, nice.
Good little bit of time. I love
That was
it.
a fun story. Wow.
Wow.
So question for you all, because I've actually, so the exact same method that obviously your now husband used of dating lots of different people kind of at the same time through online dating is something that I have done, and I actually am a big component of, because I think it's really helpful to just go on a lot of dates back to back to back. I feel like Gen Z uses it very casually versus millennials, like we're really using it to find our spouse. And it's not just like a social thing. We take it seriously.
it's not like an app. It's not like social media.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not like social media. It's
It
like,
has to
I'm on a
be used
mission.
intentionally.
Yes,
You want
yes.
that.
Which, speaking of using it intentionally, so Morgan, I'm gonna push back just a little bit on what you
Okay.
said, because I agree. Obviously, relationships are all about commitment, and 100%. You know, once you're 3, 4, 5 dates in,
Once
like,
you're kissing someone.
oh gosh,
Yeah.
especially once you're kissing someone, like that is the only person that you are seeing. You are locked in, fully committed. But when it's that first date stage, I actually find that it helps keep it really low stakes when you are doing rapid fire multiple dates one after the other, and especially kind of a little bit for women that can sometimes, you know, it's natural and easy for us to be like, let me try on his last name for size on the first date. And like, what kind of like, you know, wedding would I want? But to be like, okay, like it's just coffee. It's just coffee, and I'm gonna get coffee with this guy on Tuesday and this guy on Wednesday, and you know, we'll see what happens. I don't know.
It was great for Patrick and I to actually have that season where we were friends, and we feel like our relationship is way stronger because we got a season of friendship that you normally couldn't get with online dating, where it was a little bit lower stakes, but we got to know each other. So thank you so much. I don't think my marriage would be my marriage if it weren't for you.
Oh, I love that. The Lord works all things together for his
Amen.
good. It's
I
wild
mean, you
stories.
say low stakes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, yes, if you're going into it of this could be a friendship which could evolve into more of a boyfriend, into like what we're kissing maybe a couple months down the road, I could understand maybe that of having multiple just super small dates. But I will say that like even statistically, men have way less chances of even getting to that in-person first date point versus a woman can very easily go on a dating app and set up, 5-10 dates in a week, a month. If they really like, we're just pedal to the metal, let's set up some dates. There's a lot more opportunities for women to do that. So a man walking into a first date, they have a lot more on the line of like, I want to impress this girl. I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to send her an Uber to make sure she gets there safely. I'm going to invest my time into this conversation, to where for me, it's like recognizing, okay, a man, for me to be like, yes, I want to go on a date with you, that takes a lot more, I feel like, for a woman to agree to that, because that may be the first date that man has been on in a month or 2 months, depending. Like every man is different, but it's just a lot more difficult for a man to get to that point, because a lot of women will lead him on or just talk to him, to where it's like, have those conversations, maybe have a phone call before a first date, or schedule a first date if it's someone, what, I could see myself going on a second date with this person. Let's just feel it out.
Sure.
But I also am not a fan of low stakes coffee dates, though. If you want to take me on a date, we're going to dinner. Like if I get to the point of talking with my fiance, I think we were talking for about a couple days before we established, okay, we're on the same page, let's go on a first date. And it was a dinner, and we stayed at that dinner until the restaurant closed down and we basically got kicked out. But it's like, you are entering, if you are in it for dating and not for friendship, maybe dating, then I do think that it should be more higher stakes.
But you guys met in person, correct?
No, we did meet online.
You met online?
But we discovered that we had a lot of mutual friends.
Okay.
And so it did feel like we kind of met in person, to be honest.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I feel like rule of thumb, it's just like what you are like personally. If you kind of don't get invested and you need a little bit of that, like, okay, I need to work up to like liking someone super romantically like that, then okay, I think it's safer to go on like a few dates and schedule them. But if you're like me and you can't take anything casually and you get invested in everything so intensely from the start, maybe Morgan's approach of like, let's not schedule so many dates because...
And it's person to person.
It's person to person.
And it's man to man. Like every man's different. Every woman's different. I do think that, I don't really think there's like necessarily like, this is the 100% right way to do it and this is the wrong way to do it. Like everyone's different. But that's my phenomenon.
No. Moral of the story is just go up to someone and ask them.
On a date. If you think a girl's pretty, ask her out. Ask her out. Yeah.
There's all different ways.
I think that's, for me, it's like, I just want to get to know someone in person. So it's like the sooner we can do that, the better. So like, hopefully my hope when I start chatting with guys, like within the first week, let's grab a coffee.
Yeah.
And then you'll know.
I respect that.
Amen.
I like that.
But I like your approach too.
You gave my husband a couple dates. and then it was time to let him go.
That's funny. Love it. All right. Well, in other news and shifting, I do want to take just a second before we shift into some of the news of the week. So to ask for our one married person here among us, Chaney, what advice would you give to individuals who are about to, like Maureen, who are about to embark on a marriage journey? What would you say maybe is just a helpful piece of advice or even a piece of advice along the lines of like adjusting expectations within the context of marriage?
Yes, I think obviously you want to be marrying someone who's your best friend and your life partner and a good guy that everyone around you thinks is a good match. I think that's really important. And choosing that guy initially is going to help you so much to enjoy your marriage. And just to have fun and be quirky together. And we sing and dance a lot in our house and we have a lot of inside jokes and we pray together every single night. And that is so, so fundamental to remaining close to one another. When there are expectations that you have, like I mentioned, for me, I always thought I'd marry like a male version of myself, the same personality and interests. And Patrick is not like that. He's totally different. He keeps me grounded. He keeps me just having perspective outside of my little activism world. And I really love that and can use that a lot. And I think when sometimes I'm longing for him to, dig into some big theological or political debate, and I have to realize, okay, maybe he doesn't want to go there right now with me. It doesn't mean he won't ever go there. There are times where we can go there together and I can be honest, like on this, I really need your opinion. And then he'll say some insightful thing, just at the right moment. But I think when I'm wanting him to have a deeper conversation and he's not in the mood for it, I just realize no one person can meet all of your needs. And it's so important to have a relationship with God, a relationship with your family, relationships with friends, and coworkers, and just to have a good rounded relational life and to have a husband that supports me in my friendships and in hosting parties and in living out our values as a couple in fruitfulness and hospitality. That's just been so special to us. And I just want to love him for who he is, not who I had pictured in my mind. And that is such a wonderful journey of discovery because there's more wonder in it and there's more finding out more each day, like, oh, how do you think about this? This is a different way than I think about it. And that's fun.
That is really fun.
I love that.
I absolutely love that. Well, you mentioned your activism and you have been just a strong voice in the pro-life movement for a really long time. And now for a beautiful organization called Heaven's Gain that specifically comes alongside and partners with couples that have gone through miscarriage and just that journey. So I'd love to ask you just for a minute to share a little bit about what Heaven's Gain does. And even just, I think a lot of people don't realize how common miscarriage is.
Absolutely. It's about 1 in 5 pregnancies end in miscarriage. Wow. So miscarriage is 0 to 20 weeks and stillbirth is 20 to 40 plus weeks. And so really the only difference is gestational age. But unfortunately, in lots of states, if the baby's under 20 weeks, the parents don't actually have the rights to those remains unless the hospital has a policy that will release them, which is just so horrible because every parent should have the right to bury their baby and have a dignified dignified disposition of their remains. So at Heaven's Gain, we support families who are going through miscarriage and stillbirth and early infant death. We have a 16-hour-a-day hotline. So families actually can call in when they've received the diagnosis that their baby's died, but they haven't yet given birth. And we actually do a bereavement birth planning process with them. We teach them what to expect and how to make a plan for disposition of the baby's remains in a respectful way, if that's what they want. And we're just able to accompany women and families and couples on what's often the worst day of their life, but we're able to give them a little bit of hope and a little bit of regaining agency in a time where they feel so out of control by making a plan and understanding what's happening. And then we also have aftercare. So we have virtual support groups, virtual peer support appointments. So, anyone in the whole country can contact us. We've been working on a big project to distribute miscarriage kits. So in the first trimester, a lot of women miscarry at home. And so they need some instruction and care on how to measure their blood loss and how to be able to catch the baby for burial. About 6 weeks pregnant is the earliest you can see a baby, but those 6 to 12 weeks, a lot of women want to bury their baby. And some women even before that want to bury whatever it is they do find, or even if they're going in for a D&C surgery, they want to bury the remains in a covered vessel. And so we walk them through those choices, and we have a kit for them for at home, and we're distributing them at churches and clinics all over the country now. Whoever's interested can contact us, and we'll help you get a little outdoor box set up so you can give out miscarriage kits for moms in need. And so even though it is a really serious and hard time in these women's lives, I've seen just the joy of celebrating that child's life, no matter how short it was, to be able to bring that mom the peace of burial is such closure for her and for her husband. Dad's grieved too. We always have to remember that. And just the whole family can learn how to incorporate that baby's story into their family for the rest of their lives and think about being reunited with that child in heaven.
Really powerful.
I wish that was something that women talked about more, outside of just fertility and conceiving a child, and birth plans is miscarriages and stillbirths. And that's just something that I've kind of recently discovered of how common it is. And it's not the mother's fault. And I feel like a lot of women do lean to the side of blaming themselves for it. And it is natural. It's happened throughout all of human history, but it's something that I do wish even feminists talked about more. It's this is a very pro-women issue that happens, and I don't feel like there's a lot of support for that level of grief, because it is grief. And so this is very fantastic.
This is a unifying issue. This is something that we can come together at the table with women across the aisle and talk about improving miscarriage care. And so it's something that should bring us together.
Yeah. So legislatively, what should and can be done to make sure that all hospitals ensure that if you are in this situation, you have the rights to your baby's remains?
Yes. So we really need federal legislation on it so that all states are required to have parents have the right, I call it the right to bury, but it's also the right to cremate or have a respectful disposition. And right now it's only about half the states that have those parental rights. So it doesn't mean that you can't ask for your baby. It'll just vary by company policy, and hospitals often have very poor policies around miscarriage and stillbirth.
Is there anybody in DC who's working on this right now?
Thankfully, yes. So we've been working with Students for Life Action on some federal legislation.
That's great.
And if that's not successful, then we'll go state by state, and we'll have to change the law at the state level.
Well, even for birth plans, I've kind of been researching just things for the future. And it's even hospital policy seems to outweigh law to where if you want to have an unmedicated home birth, then some OBs won't even see you before you want to give birth. It really feels like these hospitals kind of have a grasp over the American people, overpowering federal law of what you want to do with your body, with the remains of a child, or even a child that you're actually going to give birth to. It's what can people tangibly do right now to advocate for these women's rights?
Absolutely. Maternity care deserts are one of the biggest crises of women's health in America. And again, this should be bipartisan. How can we help women have prenatal care and have access to midwives and OBs and reduce birth trauma, which can actually contribute to future abortions because women had such a bad experience in the first birth, they can't imagine going through it again.
Horrible.
So how do we actually support women with doulas being covered by Medicaid, for instance? How do we help there to be a whole atmosphere, a real culture of life that just doesn't stop when some woman decides not to have an abortion, but rather continues to support her through pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and beyond?
Yeah. Critical. And something we talked about last week with the president of the March for Life, that need to
Absolutely.
create culture.
Yeah.
It's the
I
culture.
love what Guiding Star Project is doing with that. And Secular Pro-Life just came out with some great recommendations for hospitals to have a policy around miscarried and stillbirth remains. So I'm excited to see different groups working together on these issues.
Yeah. That is awesome.
Very encouraging.
Well, Elise, we have flipped the script a little bit today.
Yes.
Usually right now we would turn to you for pop culture news, but today we're just turning to you for news.
There's so much
News.
going on
There's a
in
lot
the
going
news, but it's all, honestly, in my opinion, it's very lighthearted because
It's like news and pop culture. Altogether.
news, pop culture. I mean, Trump is
August
the
is
culture.
weird.
August is weird. There's recess. It's a little bit quieter here in DC. Thank goodness. Commutes are better. But Trump is still busy. You know, he's always doing something. And this week he was on the roof of the White House. And he's just so funny because reporters were shouting questions at him and he just goes, hello, hello. He's just answering questions from up on the roof. I actually don't even know what he was doing on the roof, but I do know that he is planning on building a ballroom, 650 person capacity at the White House. The AI sketch going around that the liberals are using, it's so ugly and that's not what it's going to look like. But here's
We
some
have
stats.
a picture.
We do have a picture.
We have a picture. That's the official White House picture.
Oh,
We'll throw up for you all
Yeah, we're going
see.
to throw it up here. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, feel free to watch along with us on
Just
YouTube.
know it's beautiful.
Just know it's beautiful.
Lots of gold, of
Lots
course.
of gold, of course. It's Trump. Addition of approximately 90,000 total square feet of ornately designed and carefully
Crazy.
crafted space, seated capacity of 650 people, and currently there's a 200-person seated capacity in the East Room, but this is just a bigger event space. Trump is all about the
wonderful.
gold. And
It's a big deal.
I've seen a lot of people on the left, just because it's a slow news cycle, they're attacking him. They're calling this like the Capitol and the Hunger Games. They're like, oh, there's people starving, but you're building this ballroom. And the left just loves to think of everything like
a
a
lazy talking point.
they just love to look at everything like a fiction book. And I'm just so excited about this. I love beautiful, opulent things. Have you guys seen the sketches of the ballroom?
Oh, it's gorgeous.
I think it looks
white.
great.
I am
Gold
pro
trim.
ball.
I am
Pro
awesome.
ball.
I am very
Pro
pro ballroom
balls.
as well.
Yes.
Would
I-
love to attend a ball there one day. Maybe.
I think
know.
this would help the dating problem. Like, let's have
Let's
singles
bring back the
come
balls.
into the White House for little mixers.
You have a
I can
dance
see Trump
card.
doing something like that.
Mr. President, if you're listening, this is an idea.
I've been to the White House in the East Wing, and it really isn't that big. Like 200 people
Yeah.
makes sense. Like, and I was in the East Room where they do that, and like it's just really they're not big rooms. So I'm kind of shocked that this has never been done before. I know he was like surveying on the roof, like Elise said. My favorite part is when they're like, "Mr. President, what are you doing up there?" And he just goes, "Taking a look."
Taking a
Like,
look.
it's just so good.
He's
And I know-
surveying the territory.
And the libs are so mad. They're like, this is going to cost so much money. Who's paying for this? Donors are paying for it. Like, no taxpayer dollars are going to this. We all know people are starving. We know the homeless problem in America is bad. But my favorite is when I think Trump was on a tarmac. He was answering questions, and they asked him, like, how is this going to be paid for? How many donors? He goes, maybe one, me. And I died.
This is just for
Like,
himself.
he was like,
retort.
I'll pay for it, I guess. Just me. And I was actually in an event. I think, when was this? I was at a couple events in the White House a few months ago, but I was at the event where he announced in that room, in the East Room, where he was like, you know what? I think we need to build a ballroom. Let's build a ballroom. I'm going to build a White House ballroom because we don't have a ballroom here. A big, beautiful ballroom. And
I
will
love
never
it.
forget when he said that live for the first time. And I mean, I'm sure he'd had other like behind the scenes conversations, but him saying that like out of nowhere was pretty hilarious.
I mean, honestly, knowing Trump, like that could have been the first time. He could have just dawned on him in that moment. Of, like, why don't we have a ball?
Why don't we have a bigger
Bigger ballroom.
He's going to make it happen.
Packed in here.
He makes it. That's one
Yeah.
thing. The president makes it happen.
This is
Yeah,
true.
oh, I'm so excited for that. And apparently, you can actually go to the White House, volunteer to decorate.
Yes, for Christmas.
For Christmas. So if you
Wow.
want to,
Applications are open right now.
right now,
Through Friday, September
Ooh.
5th, you have to get your application in. And then it's Thanksgiving week. So November 24th through November 30th. That is
Trump
the week
Christmas.
they're
Come
decorating.
alive.
So
Yeah.
go hang out with Melania.
Wow.
so if you want to take a
Decorate.
little Thanksgiving trip to DC, you can
There you go.
decorate.
That's pretty
Big
cool.
family event. That could be really fun. But
lovely.
that's not the only thing Trump has been up to this week. He actually made a pretty big but very casual admission at a press conference or a
It was a press
Is
conference.
press conference executive order signing. Someone asked, who do you think is the heir to the MAGA throne?
Let's roll that
And
clip.
they said this.
Do you agree that the heir apparent to MAGA is J.D. Vance?
Well, I think most likely, in all fairness, he's the vice president. I think Marco is also somebody that maybe would get together with J.D. in some form. I also think we have incredible people, some of the people on the stage right here. So it's too early, obviously, to talk about it, but certainly he's doing a great job, and he would be probably favored at this point.
So he basically admitted, yeah, it's J.D. Vance. He's
And maybe Marco Rubio, too.
maybe, and is very casual. But I mean, did anyone think otherwise? I didn't.
It makes a lot of sense to me. I feel like JD has been the front runner for the MAGA party, conservative movement, Republicans since the jump, especially now that he's vice president. You know, he's very young. He has a great family. He has a very impressive history, going to law school, also being, was it the Marines?
I think so.
Marines, yes. Great pick. I love
think
it.
so too. And he has this impeccable ability to not be very stiff and very PR talking points. He's out there on Twitter. He's engaging with the culture. He's engaging with just very small accounts too. And the way that he talks about just everyday events, first off, shows that he's listening to what's going on. Don't ever think the White House doesn't care about your problems, because if it's on Twitter, if it's a big talking point, they are talking about it. And he talks about it very normally. And sometimes whenever I've seen a politician, even I will say Trump on occasion, I have this is very illogical, this argument that the left is having. Just break it down like this, this, and this. The politicians don't break it down like that, but J.D. Vance does. And that's really important. So I feel very heard by him. I'm very excited about this. And I'm just curious, do you guys think it's too early to be thinking about 2028?
Yes. I wish we would wait. I'm like, we literally just had an election. Like, let's just pause for a minute and remember that Trump is still president for another more than 3 years. Let's slow down a little bit. And now, am I surprised? No, not surprised, because this is how DC works.
This is how the
You
Democrats
have to be
work.
making a
That's how
plan
everyone
for your
works.
secession.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. But does it have to be public? But of course, he was asked the question and he answered honestly. So
Well, also, it's like midterms are tomorrow.
Yeah.
It feels like, and it's like 2028 is going to be here around the corner. I'd rather have people be amped up about JD and kind of
That's so
continue to
true.
push
True.
him forward, because before he was selected as VP, he really wasn't that known.
Totally.
In a grand scheme of things to the American people. So now obviously he's on the kind of presidential stage with Trump. And also he has this relatability factor that Trump also has, which I think is why he won. And I think the more that we can get more eyes on him and get more of Gen Z and millennials and even the newer generation to buy into it, I think it's a net positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I called it before he ran for office, before he was a politician. I said, that man will be our president one day. Mark my words.
Did you read Hillbilly Elegy?
Oh, yes. And I
Okay.
knew after that, I was like, this is it.
Wow.
I started reading. It's really good. Well, J.D. Vance is kind of reaching the youth in more than one way. Obviously, he's out on Twitter. He got endorsed basically as MAGA's heir. And there is a really special episode of South Park that came out this week, starring none other than him, Trump, and Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Morgan, because you know all about this. I have not seen the episode. You have.
I stayed up.
Give us the rundown.
10 p.m. Eastern time, watch the episode, South Park. And let me tell you, if you haven't watched it, this one is hilarious. And if there's one thing I have to say is conservatives can actually laugh at a good parody. Because I feel like if they tried to do this with Kamala and Joe or something, like it wouldn't have gone over well with the left, but the right thinks it's hilarious. My favorite clips were the ones of Charlie Kirk, because obviously he is known for his debating, going on these college campuses, gathering groups. And one of the clips was actually a direct quote from Charlie during a debate. So we'll throw that one in here so you guys can get a good laugh.
Black people have everything handed to them. I'm sick of people stealing my stick. If anyone around here is going to be a master debater, it's me. So let's go. Who wants to debate the master debater? Let's go. You right there.
That's the stupidest haircut I've ever seen.
You are bound. Leviticus 3:17 says it shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings. So you can shut up, baby. You just hate America and you love abortions.
So obviously he's debating this radical feminist about abortion, and he's throwing like Bible verses and also realities at her. But it really just shows the juxtaposition of how crazy the left is when they show up to these events. But my favorite part is how they refer to it as master debating. Funny play on words, and how he is an expert master debater. And
say it 5 times fast.
Say it 5 times fast, yeah. And they kept saying it throughout the show. And it really just, to me, showed comedy gold of we can actually see how crazy the left is with a lot of these arguments, and how the right comes back with the facts. And then they even made a joke at his haircut, and they even made a joke about how maybe Charlie clips him to where he only sounds good. But I can tell you, I've been on these college campuses more than probably at this point 30 to maybe even 50 college campuses. I've lost count of how many of Charlie Kirk events I've attended live, and they're not clipped, okay? These college kids are dumber than rocks, and they do not come bringing receipts to try and debate Charlie, and it is hilarious to witness. So seeing South Park display this was funny. And they also featured Kristi Noem with ICE, and because ICE, obviously now you can apply to be an ICE officer.
Yes, you absolutely
Mass
can.
recruiting for ICE.
ICE has been posting some great graphics, very beautiful, very retro Americana. Join ICE, your country needs you type things. And just here's some information. First off, it's free to apply. They're offering a $50,000 signing bonus.
Just for some. Those are higher. But yes. For some.
And they're going to help repay student loans if that's something that you need. And the OG Superman actor, Dean Cain, actually just joined ICE. There's no age limit. You can be as young or as old if you meet fitness requirements. And I don't know, this is just such an interesting way to recruit. It's a viral campaign on social media right now.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think?
Well, I mean, they need more agents. We've seen that, obviously. They're deporting as fast as they possibly can, as fast as they have capabilities to do. This is a major, of course, priority of the Trump administration to arrest and remove specifically criminal illegal aliens, of whom literally thousands, hundreds of thousands have been so far arrested and many of those deported. So it's a fulfillment of a campaign promise, but you have to have people in order to do that. So it's critical. And so, I mean, let's say you guys decide hard career pivot.
Why not?
Would you work for ICE?
No.
That was fascinating.
I wouldn't. Not my forte. I think it's more of a man's job than a woman's job, to be honest. But I honestly think it's a great opportunity for Americans
Morgan,
who
they have
believe
social
in this.
media positions, I'm sure,
True.
too.
I mean, I can.
Okay, wait, here's my other question. Would you be okay with your husband, boyfriend, spouse joining ICE if he wanted to?
If he wanted to, I would be. Obvious, my husband, or my future husband, my almost husband, he's former military, so I would honestly support that. And also just for the greatness of our country is we need people to go out there and be ICE agents. And I think there's a lot of American people that may benefit from this program financially. Even the job opportunities we're getting there with economic growth and job opportunities in America and companies, putting more jobs in our country. But, if you are kind of in between jobs or you're passionate about the country, why not? I did think that the parody of South Park was funny. It was this counselor at the school who went to apply, and basically he took the job so that he could pay off his debt and like had a really guilty conscience about it. So I do think it's funny that they're parodying it.
Yeah.
I love it. So good. Well, so our question of the week this week.
Would you join ICE?
Would you join
would you be okay with your
ICE?
husband joining ICE? If that's a no for you ladies out there, because I have a feeling it might be no. But if it's yes, please tell us why, because that's so exciting, so interesting. And I don't know, send a screenshot of your application if you do it.
Celebrate you. But for our quick review of last week's question of the week. So last week we asked, how young is too young to get married? And you all had some great responses. Some just sent numbers, which I respect. We had wide ranges, everything from like 16 to 38. Who put 38?
38 is too young.
I'm guessing someone has a 38-year-old daughter.
I feel like I just read it and it was like maybe I don't know. So Hannah Faulkner, good friend of ours, who's going to be on the show actually I think next month. Yeah, in a few weeks. So she said 16 with a laughing face. Like okay, maybe we'll ask her about that.
Yeah, we should.
Emily Boulette said before you have means to pay your bills, aka usually 20 to 22-ish, also depends on maturity. I agree. I think that's a very practical answer. Nakanate said there's no right answer. Not everyone will be ready for marriage at the same age. That's true.
Completely agree.
What about a 12-year-old?
And you have to meet the
Absolutely
right
not.
person. That's way more important than the age.
It is way more important. Alexa Schultz, 13, said 18 to 19. If you've found your person, wait until you've had a year or so out of high school. People change a lot in that year. Very true.
Agreed.
And then Lydia Fogelman, 13, says 17-ish. She says, I'm 18 and getting married soon. So congratulations to you. That's very exciting. So thank you. We had like a lot of great responses. Thank you to everyone who sent your thoughts and answers. So we want to know though this week, would you join ICE if given the opportunity? And we'll say, so there's multiple buckets of what you can do for ICE. If you go on their website, they show you. So you can like either do the like law enforcement side, or you can do like the investigative side, or like after criminals are arrested, like pulling background on them. So if you think like, oh, I would like to do more like analytical, or anyway, there's other opportunities. We want to know what you want to do for ICE as well.
Yeah.
Are you a passionate patriot?
Seriously.
Indeed. Well, Chaney, thank you again
Thank you
for
all.
joining and being willing to share our crazy story.
I love it.
Too fun. And we will see you all right back here next week. But don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We so appreciate all of y'all's support and those who sound off on our various platforms, wherever you like to listen, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Rumble. Thank you guys so much for joining us across so many different platforms. Let us know what you think about the show, and make sure you are following Problematic Women on Instagram so you never miss out on any of our content or our question of the week. We'll see you right back here next week.